We're coming to you live tonight from North Shields, just outside Port Lincoln, on this, the 10th anniversary of the Black Tuesday bushfires. I'm joined now by Nine's Ben Avery, who's been touring the peninsula to see how the community has recovered from the devastation. Ben, 10 years on, what's the feeling like here?
Well, Brenton, there's no doubt this is a resilient community, and it's one that was determined to get back on its feet as quickly as possible. For many residents here, Black Tuesday feels only like yesterday. In fact, many people we've spoken to were shocked to realise that it has been 10 years. Now, one of the faces of the bushfire tragedy was the inspirational Natalie Borlace. She lost her 2 children and her mother in one of the most heartbreaking stories you will ever hear. Today, Natalie's experience is reflective of the wider Eyre Peninsula community. She's somehow found a way to move on and rebuild, but the pain of the past is never too far away. Waking up in Port Lincoln today, there are a few signs of the catastrophe that struck the Eyre Peninsula a decade ago. Vegetation has regrown, wildlife's thriving, industry and tourism is booming. But look more closely and the scars of Black Tuesday remain, some physical, some emotional. On a dirt track near Wanilla, 30 kilometres north of Port Lincoln, a tragic reminder of a family torn apart. So how often would you say you come here?
We might pop up a few times during the year just to tend to it and prune the roses and things like that.
It's the very spot Natalie Borlace discovered the bodies of her 2-year-old son Jack, 3-year-old daughter Star and her mother Judy. They perished in a 4-wheel drive while attempting a dash for safety.
Mum and I were very close, we're like best friends, so you know, when something like this happens, that's probably the person that you'd want to be able to talk to about it, and yeah, she's not here. But at the same time, it would have been really sad if my children had gone on their own as well, so I'm really glad for them that she was with them.
Clinging to life near the 3 victims was Natalie's father, Wayne Griffith. Along with his wife, he'd been babysitting their grandchildren before the fire came roaring at them.
20 minutes before the fire, we were playing with the kids, you know, in the house. And then 20 minutes later, they're gone.
Wayne was the sole survivor, but spent months recovering with burns to 80% of his upper body.
I became very reclusive, hermit-like, because I didn't want to go out.
Even worse was the enormous guilt and heartache.
If we'd left 30 seconds earlier, we would have been through before the fireballs came. We would have been down at the other house. Wasn't good. Yeah, wasn't good.
What got him through was the gratitude he had for the Royal Flying Doctor Service, the Royal Adelaide Hospital's burns unit, and all the medical staff who kept him alive in the first place. Then there was the desire to support his daughter and her husband Darren as they mourn the loss of their little toddlers who would now be approaching high school.
I acknowledged their birthdays and I get quite sad about it.
Closer to the coast, Lorna Harding has her own story.
By lunchtime it was well and truly on us.
She was one of the many residents at North Shields to lose their home. You were born in this house and then 81 years later you're still living in the house?
Still living in the house until it burnt down.
The fire bearing down, she joined many others taking refuge in the sea and watched as her home was engulfed in flames. But Lorna knows it could have been much worse. Over her back fence, just 50 metres away, schoolteacher Helen Castle was killed while trying to see out the fire in her bathtub.
You can build another house, but you can't replace a life.
On the night of the fire, Lorna sheltered at her daughter's house 2 doors down the road. 10 years on, she's still there. And you're 91 now, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. Get well looked after. And if you're going to let it get you down, you let it get you down. It's no good, you've got to just pick yourself up and get on with it.
It's an attitude shared across the peninsula. Agriculture Minister Leon Bignell, then Chief of Staff to Emergency Services Minister Patrick Conlon, recalls the extraordinary response from those who'd lost everything.
One of the things that I remember in that recovery centre was people saying, oh, well, you know, we don't want to take anything because there's people worse off than us. They just seemed relieved that they hadn't lost their lives.
Farmers who'd lost their life's work, too proud to put out their hands.
The fire was on Tuesday. By the Friday, they had $10,000 cheques, and there was a reluctance from some farmers to accept the money. Patrick went over to this older gentleman, this farmer, and he said, look, you've been paying your taxes all your life? And the gentleman said yes, and he goes, well, it's not charity, mate, it's your money. We're just giving it back to you in your time of need. It was the worst of times, but we saw the best in human endeavour, the best in human behaviour.
You had so much support. We had lots and lots of mail coming in all the time. There were lots of donations and things like that, and I was really passionate about making sure that I said thank you to everyone for what they did.
Grateful and appreciative despite everything she's lost, Natalie is an inspiring woman, living proof that the human spirit can overcome the hugest of challenges.
I'm back working now, so I work doing teaching swimming to babies from 6 months old to up to 5 years old, and then I also work in the same position that I was in before, doing conveyancing work as well.
And at the site where the family home burnt down, Natalie and her husband Darren have rebuilt. It's a place for their family to come and visit as they continue to manage their family farm as a strong married couple.
We were told right initially that the percentages of us surviving our marriage with trauma like that was very low, and so I kind of made that a bit of a challenge that I wasn't going to be a statistic.
6 years later, the Ball Aces again beat the odds.
If you'd asked me 10 years ago, I would have said there's no way that I'm going to have any more children and have to, you know, feel that I can't protect them or I can't keep them safe. But then as time went along, I thought that I really do have a lot of love to give, and so I'd really like to try and have another child. We had 2 failed IVF trials as well, and then it wasn't until I actually vocally said, I think we need to be grateful for the 2 children that we've had, that the following month I was pregnant.
Little Cash is now 4 years old.
He is definitely a little miracle and a very gentle soul. We haven't actually spoken about the fire as such, but he certainly is aware that he has a sister and a brother. He knows their names. He knows that he's got a grandma as well.
He also has a proud grandpa who has since experienced his own miracle. Last October, at the age of 70, he discovered he was adopted as a child and has 3 sisters living in Adelaide.
When I met them, I just came rushing out of the car, and they sort of came up and hugged me. And I found that unbelievable, you know. So here I am, one stage, 10 years on, crying for joy, where 10 years before that I was crying for, you know, something that happened to us. So it just shows you in life, you never know what's around the corner.
His new sisters were with him on the Eyre Peninsula for today's anniversary. A chance for these amazing people to reflect on what was lost, but also on how far they've come.
I'm not the first who's been through this, I'm not the last, and there's been people who've been through a lot worse than me. And they get through it, so no reason I can't.